Nobody can prepare you for the moment when you hear you have 5 days left to live.
You're going straight for it. I like it. I went from being really fit, living wherever I wanted to live, Bali, Prague, wherever, to all of this is gone and I'm in a hospital room. There was this one moment where there were like 6 or 7 doctors around my bed and I'm like, guys, why are you acting so seriously? Like, what's going on here? I'm an athlete and know how much that attitude matters. Whether you think you can or you think you can, you will be right.
What was that conversation with death like, and how did it change your relationship to life?
Nothing in life has any meaning. We make meaning up. I think it's intelligent to give things positive meaning. That whole experience made me realize, made me understand the little things that you maybe take for granted are actually the big things. And I want people to understand it's not the money. When people ask me like, what made you survive? I always say,
hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Overnigth Growth. I'm your host, Alice Gatto, and today I'm joined by a special guest whose success story transcends typical business success. His story inspired millions of people, not just through his teachings. My guest today is Axel Schura, who is also a survivor of Burkitt leukemia, a very rare but aggressive form of cancer, and he fought in a battle for his life that very rare number of people actually get to witness and understand. Axel, over the last couple of months, I've had the privilege to tap into your wisdom, and I can truly say it's unmatched. So today, I feel super, super excited to be able to share your learnings and your mindset with many more people and unpack not just your way to survive cancer, but to truly, truly thrive after that. Welcome to the podcast.
thank you. What an introduction. I have goosebumps. You're filming in 4K, right? You can see it.
Let's start with this question. I feel like most of us just live wishing for quick success, very quick growth, beautiful memories, but nobody can prepare you for the moment when you hear you have 5 days left to live. Take us back to the moment when you heard that. What were the emotions? What were the feelings that you had come up?
A really good question. You're going straight for it. I like it. The emotions. So I think I need to deliver a bit of context. Up until that point, I was living, I would say, fulfilled life. I had a, for sure, tough childhood. But at some point, I decided, you know what, I'm going to take self-responsibility. I started working on myself, started reading self-help books, studied the brain just because, you know, I saw how much a person can suffer.
Yeah.
And I was like, this stuff, this addiction, I grew up surrounded by alcoholics. I'm like, I remember making the decision, this ends with me. And so I was already really just interested in understanding the human body, but then also the human mind. And so I was like, I'm going to do my own thing. Started my own business, started my own personal brand, and it grew well. And then this part of, you know, my journey came into my life that you just mentioned, that I went from being really fit, living wherever I wanted to live, Bali, Prague, wherever, to all of this is gone and I'm in a hospital room. And there was this moment where doctor said that, you know, it was actually said to my partner at the time. You know her, Mari. She's a legend. She was the person receiving the message because I was so drugged.
You were on
painkillers that I, like, you could have said anything to me. I was like, oh, I don't care. Like, I was just not myself.
That's such a tough job to translate, such a difficult message to, first of all, have the strength to absorb it, but also probably protect you
Yeah.
from it in a certain way.
Yeah. So I didn't know what's going on. Like I learned about all of this much, much later.
So during the initial stages of you finding out, were you aware how critical the situation was?
No. There was this one moment where there were like 6 or 7 doctors where around my bed, and I'm like, guys, why are you acting so seriously? Like, what's going on here? What's all this drama about? You're acting. I literally said this sentence. You're acting like I'm about to die.
Oh my goodness.
Because Mari never told me.
Yeah.
She wanted to protect me from that news, and she knew like I'm the kind of person. I believe until the last second. Like I'm gonna do whatever it takes. I don't care. That's how I was raised. That if I have a goal, I'm gonna go get it. That's my mindset. Even if the odds would be 1%. That's just how I grew up. And so she would be probably the better person to answer that question. For me, I don't know. I was just so medicated that I have a hard time remembering the moment, but for my loved ones, it was obviously devastating.
If there hadn't been the shield in the light of your now ex-partner to deliver the news, and there wasn't this kind of layer of protection and the doctors were speaking directly to you, do you think your chances for surviving and taking all of your willpower to fight for it would have been the same?
That's a really good question. I don't know. What I do know is that I could have not done it by myself. That's for sure. That I know. Like I was really lucky to have friends, family around me who protected me and helped me, and there was not even a percentage of doubt. They believed so much in me.
I love that.
And had such a positive attitude also towards me and the whole situation, that for sure helped. Because if you don't believe it's possible, it won't, whatever it is in life, if you don't believe it's possible, it just won't happen.
100%.
And there was just no alternative. Like, we have to get through this somehow.
That's such a powerful mindset, and I'm completely in awe of how you managed to turn your mindset around even in such a rough situation and still feel like there's an option for me. I can do this. Even if there is 1%, I'll fight for it. Did you yourself, though, have moments of doubt?
For sure. Yeah, of course. Not when... Can I swear on your podcast?
Of course.
Not when shit hit the fan, then it's just fight, flight, or freeze.
Yeah.
I was fighting.
Yeah.
I didn't have the time to like process that. Later, when I got better, then I was actually like, oh, what? Then it started. What if it comes back? What if it happens again? Will I actually make it? Like, what is it? Who's guaranteeing that this is actually working? What I'm doing here, the therapy and everything. But in the moment, it was my subconscious mind, and my subconscious mind has been trained my entire life. Like it felt like the 26, 27 years before were like preparation for that moment.
Yeah.
Because my subconscious mind knew, okay, whatever I tell myself is going to be my reality. Like there's this quote by Henry Ford, whether you think you can or you think you can, you will be right. And that is like in my subconscious mind. So I know the power of words. I know how powerful words are. So I knew I have to tell myself, this is going to work out for me.
Yeah.
I'm going to make this work. I don't know how yet, but I'll make it work. And there's no doubt about it that I will make it work. And when there are moments of doubt, that's just how it also continues now in my life. When there are moments of doubt, I know, okay, that's just a thought. That's how I try to see it. And back in that moment, first I didn't have the time to really doubt. When I got better, I started doubting. There was one moment, or like 2 or 3 bad days, I would say, You can call them bad days, just because most of the time I was not living in a nice state. I was asking, why me? Why me? Why me? Why did this happen to me? And at some point I'm like, Axel, did you forget your own teachings? What do you mean? You ask such horrible questions and you get horrible answers.
It's really easy to internalize it, though. And, in rough situations, I think most of us would resort to the question, why is this happening to me? Like, what did I do to deserve this? So how did you manage to not internalize that question, and how did you reframe it in your head?
Couple of things I did. Number one, asking for help. Getting it out of my head, communicating it with people, communicating my fears, having a therapist. One of the best decisions I've ever made in life is having a therapist. Having people around me that could, that I could just talk to, because so often we're like stuck in our head. And I knew like I need to get this out of my head. And usually in my life, in my coachings, I tell people, well, first you need to shift your physical state.
Yeah.
Then the rest becomes easier. But I was tied into a hospital bed. Like that was the thing I couldn't do. So I knew I need to get out of my head. And I tried to do it with many different things. Asking for help, my loved ones, love. When people ask me like, what made you survive? I always say, love.
Wow.
Because that's the strongest force in life. Like, we human beings, we're funny creatures. We are willing to do more for others than for ourselves. And knowing that, I was just visualizing every single freaking day how I will be on, and that really happened. So Mari,
yes,
and what she stood for, what we stood for, that gave me so much strength, that love. No, and she had there was this one picture I kept repeating in my head. She was doing this competition and I wanted to see her win the competition, but I also wanted to be there in person.
Yeah.
So I kept visualizing that picture every single morning. And those were things that helped me. I was tied into a bed, but at some point I'm like, I want to stand. Today, I want to learn how to stand again. And it sounds so crazy. If you've
especially knowing you have been so fit, so healthy all of your life, and for it to take a turn so quickly.
Yeah. But then from the business world, from personal development, I know little steps add up.
Yeah.
What can I do? How can I take mini risks today? How can I do a little bit of progress today? Because I know if I do this over and over again, it adds up. And I will look back at a lot of progress. And so I did a couple steps here, a couple steps there, 2 steps more tomorrow, 2 steps more tomorrow. And at some point I was walking down the hospital.
Yeah.
And yeah.
There might be people watching us who, God forbid, are fighting some kind of a disease or perhaps cancer as well. There are some factors that are external, maybe the kinds of treatments you have access to that are outside of your control. But what is within our control is our mindset and the way we make decisions in those crucial moments. So if you were to analyze what helped you survive, what are the 5 steps for a recipe that helped you get out of it?
5 steps. Okay. Let me start with the decision to commit, to give my everything, to give my very best, everything I have to make this work.
Yeah.
I think that's something we sometimes forget. Sometimes we say, maybe we achieve this, maybe I'll get this. I like this phrase, maybe is a swear word.
Oh, yeah.
You're not going to say like, maybe I'm going to get flowers for my partner tomorrow.
Yeah.
With that attitude, you
lack of commitment.
Yeah, lack of commitment. You say, I'm gonna make this work. I knew only then I have a chance. It's like I'm an athlete. I've been my whole life, and I know how much that attitude matters. that attitude determines altitude. If you go into, I played football for a really long time. I knew if you go into a game and you have this attitude, we're not going to win.
You'll be right about it.
You'll be a gazillion % right about it.
Yeah.
If you have the attitude, I'm going to do whatever it takes to win, can anybody guarantee you that you will win? No. But at least you have a shot.
100%.
And a much better shot than going into the whole thing with negativity.
Yeah. A 100% decision goes a long way.
Yeah. So that would be the first step, like really committing. The second step, I did that subconsciously, is finding a really strong why. I really believe if the why is strong enough, you will figure out anyhow.
What was your why?
Love. Like the thought that my loved ones have to go through so much pain, like I could just like, no way. No way. That for sure. Third one, progress every day in some way and celebrating it. Number 4, doing the things even when I don't feel like it. Like I didn't feel like getting up. Like that was the last thing. I didn't feel like going on a walk.
How did you motivate yourself in those moments?
I love this whole motivation thing. Sometimes you just have to do it. Sometimes the first step is the hardest and you go 3, 2, 1 and then the motivation comes. And there is this incredible book I've read a long time ago. It's called 5-Second Rule by Mel Robbins.
Yeah.
And the idea is really simple. You have an intuition, you have an idea, you know that is the right thing to do. You count in your head 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and you do the first step.
Yeah.
Don't
let your brain overanalyze.
Yeah,
just jump into it.
3, 2, 1, and you just do it. And again, training camp my whole life, I take a cold shower every morning. There is no day where I'm like, oh, I feel so ready.
Yeah.
But I trained my brain to go 3, 2, 1, and I just do it. 3, 2, 1, and I make the first step. 3, 2, 1, I pick up my camera and make a video. 3, 2, like I used it then, I use it now, and that is just my subconscious mind now. So that was something really helpful. 3, 2, 1, just
so
do
powerful.
it. 3, 2, 1, just ask, because it was really humbling. But that's
one more, number 5.
That would be number 4, and number 5 would be, let me give you something I haven't communicated yet. Get help. Get help from someone who can hold space for you. Best case, from someone who has been through, or let me rephrase it, since this here is also a business podcast. Get help from someone who has what you want to have, or someone who can get you there.
Who is that in your case? Was it an
I have many people.
For survivor, or was it doctors? Were those therapists?
I have a really good. He doesn't call himself therapist. He is a trained therapist, but he for sure helped me a lot during that time. A lot of people. Like I'm really lucky to have a lot of amazing people, mentors, coaches in my life that I have access to, and without them, I wouldn't be here. That's for sure. And that is also one of the best things I've ever done. Looking back, learning from others.
Yeah.
Instead of just trying everything by myself. That's I would say, if you take those 5 steps, not just in that situation, but in general in life.
Yeah, I feel like that recipe is so translatable to any kind of challenging situation.
Yeah.
It's really rare for us to be able to have a near-death experience and to also then have an opportunity to contemplate it, especially at such a young age. What was that conversation with death like, and how did it change your relationship to life?
One of the first books I've ever read is called The Meditations by Marcus Aurelius.
Yeah.
Have you read it?
I have.
And I remember reading it. I was 18, and I was like, wait a second. So you're telling me time is limited? And wait a second. Like, until that point, I've never thought about death, you know? But after this book, I started to understand the concept. I'm like, oh, okay, so time is limited. Really interesting. Why do I care so much? And then if you know that truth, if you really understood that, you just live life a bit different. For me, it just doesn't make sense to, for example, live for the next 30, 40 years, do a job that I don't like, to then retire. And then enjoy life. Because who knows that if you can retire,
Yeah.
Who knows if you live until then? Who knows if nobody knows. Yeah. So all you have is right freaking now and perhaps tomorrow. So that was already in me. So I already knew about this. So the conversation I had was not like for the first time in my life, I'm facing death. For the first time in my life, I'm becoming aware of that time is limited. Mm-hmm. But I'm going to be honest with you, it was scary. Like, I didn't want to. I'm really happy living. Like, I want to be here.
Yeah.
I want to stay here. There's so many things that I still want to do. And like all of those books I've read before, they popped up to my mind. Like all the mentors, I remember thinking that like, oh, there's still so many things that I want to do. There was this one video that Mari made, and she said, like, there's still so many things he wanted to do. And she was sad about it. I'm like, wait, let me use that as fuel. Because I know the book, do you know Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl?
Oh, 100%.
Fantastic. Really.
He who has a why will find
Yeah. And I remember him talking about Holocaust survivors that, like, something he saw is that people who had something that they looked forward to, they had higher chances of survival. And I was like, okay, I need a vision board in this freaking hospital room.
Wow.
So I had a vision board. I'm like, Amari went to the store. She printed everything. She told me, like, send me the pictures. I'm going to print it. The whole wall was just, things I still wanted to do, a book I wanted to write. I have this, it was really important for me to, at some point, be old. Like I had pictures of like old couples there. I just really like this idea and like all the things, a hotel and blah, 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 like things that I really want to do. And that just gave me so much freaking hope. I'm not sure what the question was. What the conversation with Death was. That was my conversation with Death. I am staying here.
Again, coming back to that 100% decision. And it seems the whole journey you were just focusing on that spring that follows winter rather than just focusing on all the bad things happening around you.
I wish sometimes people would have been a bit harder with me and say, Axel, you need to focus on what you want. We can't focus on the thing you don't want. We can't do that. We can't go there with your thoughts every day. We need to focus on what you want.
Yeah.
And that's obviously very hard in that situation. If you're like, day in my life would have been basically giving my book here away.
We need little snippets. Please continue.
It's coming next year. The days were not, you sit and you meditate, you wake up, somebody takes blood out of your body, and then there is someone putting a massive needle into your back. And like, it's very hard to stay positive.
It is.
But I also knew from the books, hey, if Holocaust survivors, like if they find a way, there must be a way then. Okay? And what makes this event hard, painful, is not the event, it's my interpretation. So I try to reframe all of this. Instead of chemo, we said liquid sunshine. Would
you say you have to be to a certain point Delulu?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, this whole Delulu part, I love it so much. Delulu, and then the next amazing word, toxic positivity. Delulu and toxic positivity. So nothing in life has any meaning. That's a fact. Yeah. Nothing in life has any meaning. We make meaning up, even with words. There is a word for, you can say bum, you can say ass, right? You can say butt. It's all the same thing.
It is.
Right? All describes the same thing. We just created different meanings for it. Yeah. And life situations, one person loses their job. One person gets fired. It's like the worst day of their lives. And then another person gets fired. It's like, ooh, I'm so excited, amazing, a new opportunity.
My path is aligning.
Right? One person gets rejected. Oh.
Yeah, it's all about
perception. And the other person is like, oh, I recently had a friend of mine. She was sitting next to me in a taxi in Italy, and a client basically ended the collaboration. And she was like, "Oh fuck, I'm so happy about it. Finally, because we didn't make progress and she didn't do her part. I'm so happy she left." I'm like, interesting. Because I'm sure there's another person right now who
100%.
cries because a client left. So it's nothing has meaning. We give things meaning. And I don't think it's delulu to give things positive meaning. I think it's intelligent. Because if nothing has meaning, might as well find the empowering meaning in things. It takes zero courage to be negative.
Yeah.
Absolutely no courage, no faith, no strength, nothing. It takes courage, it takes faith to say, you know what? I'm going to try to find the beautiful meaning in this. I'm going to try to find the empowering meaning in this.
Why has it happened for me?
Exactly. What is good about this? And even about my shitty situation, framing. But anyways, even about that situation. Okay, what was good about that? Okay, I have a lot of time to watch all of those tennis matches I always wanted to watch. Okay,
Wow.
I have time to just chill at home and do nothing. How about that beautiful Czech lady that brings me home cooked food every day? Like in every moment you can find something good.
Yeah.
And that takes maybe a bit of delusion. But you know what? I don't think it's delusion. I think it's intelligence. I think at the end of the day, it's intelligence. And I don't think there is such a thing as toxic positivity.
If you can't control those external factors, might as well find a positive growth point for yourself, right?
Yeah, but what's the alternative? Complain and like feel horrible, and I don't know. Like I just don't sign up to the concept.
I love that. Knowing all of the personal growth that has come out of this period for you and everything that's unfolded for you because of this lesson, would you go through it again?
No. 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 The teacher, that's how I say it. The teacher came into my life, taught me a couple of lessons. I learned my lessons. You may go. No, I wouldn't say so. Like there are a lot of things. I think it happened for me. Many amazing people I met because of it. An amazing book I get to write that I know will reach a lot of people. We reach millions of people every month because of this story. But I don't need to do it again. No, thank you.
Health is something you're not willing to sacrifice.
No. Health is not something that I'm willing to sacrifice. No, and I don't think it needs to be happening again. Like I really learned my lesson. I took my time. I looked at it. I changed things, and yeah, I wouldn't. Not just for myself, but also for my loved ones.
100%.
Because for them it was equally hard. It can be even harder, for the other person. Like how much pain would
For sure.
someone who loves you go through? To just see a loved one suffering is one of the hardest things
Probably the
a
worst.
human being can endure. So no, thank you.
This probably changed your perspective quite a bit.
Yeah.
What are maybe 3 lessons you would be willing to share with our listeners out of this experience?
Number 1 would be probably become a team player. We love to share our wins. When something's going well, what is the first thing you do when you have a win? When something goes really well?
Message your loved ones.
You call someone, right? When something is not going well, what is the first thing you do?
Don't tell anybody.
You don't tell anybody. You're stuck in your head. So I would say become a team player in the sense of you share wins, you share challenging times, and you have a team in your life. For some people, it's in their business. They go with you through the wins, the challenging times, and you learn together. I would say that was one of the biggest lessons. Like, we're social beings. because for a long time I tried to do everything by myself.
Yeah.
And that was just bad conditioning from the past, from my childhood. And so seeing that, like, I could not, when you adult man who's been self-sufficient his whole life pretty much, and now you have to ask someone to go to the toilet with you, it's very humbling. But at some point I understood how there is so much beauty in being able to ask for help.
How beautiful. How is it serving you now on the daily basis that you are implementing it?
In terms of business, I must say, it's serving me a lot, because now I have no problem giving tasks away, like asking for help. I have a team of people who make things possible for me, and I know a lot of it is because of that experience, because I really learned to give away responsibility to heal that wound of asking for help, because I needed to. I had no other chance. So that would be one thing. The next thing would be I want to give you a different answer that I usually give. I want to give you things that just pop up to my head. Be nice. Be nice. Because one day you will reflect and you will hope that you treated the people you love nicely. Like, the most important thing that you will worry about on your deathbed is love and connection. Did you really love? Did you have amazing memories with your loved ones?
Yeah.
That's what you will care about. Like, how are they? Are they okay? Are they good? Do they know that I love them? And some people run around through life never telling the people they love the most, their kids, their partners, how much they love them. And I'm like, what on earth? Why would we do that? So treating the people nicely. I could go on for forever. The third point would probably, like, don't work so much. Yeah, I think you asked for lessons. That's something I changed. Don't work so much and don't take life so seriously. Because at the end of the day, that whole experience made me realize, made me understand, very few things actually really matter. And the little things that you maybe take for granted are actually the big things. The little things are the big things, like the date night with your loved one, with your partner, the coffee you have every single morning, the ability to go to the gym or play tennis. All of those things make you rich. We have this idea, the Ferrari, the big house, the jet ski, that is richness. That's not richness, There's so many people who have all of this, the fame, the money, the Oscar, whatever, but they feel poor. They don't love. How many more examples do we need of celebrities who are clearly not happy, who end their lives too early?
In this season of life for you, how do you define success?
Being happy, as romantic as it sounds, and that's a reality check I do frequently. Like, am I really happy right now? But am I happy with my day? Am I happy with how I'm spending my day, my time? And if the answer is no for 3 days in a row, I know, like, I need to change something. And that's like I have this voice in my head asking me, like, is this really in alignment with how you want to live? Because, like, I know with 100% certainty, we all don't know when our time is, like, over. And that is something I want to use for myself. So it gives me, like, little reality checks.
How often do you have to bring yourself back to, checking? Because I imagine it's such a valuable lesson you have learned. Most of us never get that perspective of how truly finite this life is.
Yeah.
But I'm sure you forget at times as well.
Oh, for sure. I forget every day.
What are those little checks you do on a daily basis?
Every morning during my meditation, I check in and I ask myself, like, what do I want? What do I want to create? How do I want to live? And, it's one thing to read a book about death, or watch. Everybody should watch this speech Steve Jobs gave once. Thing. Which university was it? I'm not sure which university, but if you look it up, Steve Jobs' speech about death, you can hear about it, but it's a different thing if you have really, really understood it.
Absolutely.
And it happens frequently, like every other day that I check in with myself, like, why do I do this? Like, why is this so important? And sometimes, I have to find consciously powerful meaning and, get back to what I want and not let this be something that helps me, not that is like against me, if that makes sense.
Makes absolute sense.
Yeah. But like in general, that voice is helping me a lot, enables me to think big. I'm not scared to look stupid or to fail because I know nobody actually, like, I'm not going to care.
Nothing matters in
And
perspective, right?
I mean, nothing matters, and there are things that
Yeah.
that matter. What matters is that I'm proud of the things that I do.
Yeah.
Whether other people think it's good or not, I don't, like, that's not determining the value of it.
Yeah.
I want to do things that I look back at the end of my life and say, dope, cool. I'm really proud of that. And I want to have fun. That's for me. I think you asked for my definition of success. If I have fun, what's the point of sitting 13 hours in front of my laptop and making another zero to my bank account? Okay, I love money, great. But really, there needs to be a balance. And I want to spend my time doing things, creating things that I'm proud of. And sometimes I do and sometimes I don't. And when I don't, I try to, just shift and like, okay, well, maybe that was not the best investment of my time.
Beautiful, beautiful measurements, because I'm sure there are a lot of people out there that, maybe are not so satisfied with their current job and where they're at, but it's all about what you do with it. Some people never actually change it.
Yeah, and I want people to understand it's not the money.
Yeah.
Because people think, once I get the money, then I'll be happy. No. Do you know how many people I know who have so much money and are miserable and are stressed all the time? Who are even stressed about money? It's not just because you have a lot of money on your bank account that you don't stress about it anymore. Then you just have a new standard, and if it goes below the standard, you get equally stressed.
Yeah. And it's worse when you have money and you still feel shit.
Yeah,
because now you can't blame it on money.
Yeah, now you can't blame it on the money. Then you blame someone else.
Yeah.
Then you blame the partner. Then you blame the kids. Then you blame whatever, the town where you grew up. It's not the money. It's also not the success. It's something. It's ourselves. That's, I think, something we need to learn as individuals, business owners, human beings, is learning how to frame things for us. Learning how to train not only your body and your biceps, but also training your appreciation muscle, your gratitude muscle. Learning to look for the good things in situations. That is a skill you need to learn.
A massive skill.
Yeah, and you can have a lot of money, for example, success, business success, and have a very tiny muscle when it comes to those things. Appreciation, gratitude, and having fun at the end of the day. And I think that's everybody at the end of the day wants to feel good.
Oh, 100%. What's the point otherwise?
Yeah, and what is this whole rat race about? More hustle. So what? Why?
Well, in my opinion, it's been created by the society, because for the society, it's quite beneficial for people to be working as much as they can, right? But on the flip side of that, I think if everybody were to follow their ultimate path of alignment that brings excitement to them, our world would probably be just that much better.
Elise, I've been on that side for a very long time. I worked every single hour. Young 20s, I would work, it would start at 6 and I would end at 9 or 10. I think, yes, I loved what I did, but there was also, and that's for many of us, I tried to prove something. And then the question I always ask when I have someone in front of me, who are you trying to prove that you're enough?
Mm-hmm.
And often it's like father, mother.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, it was, my father.
Mm-hmm.
Or like in general, I mean, I lost my mom when I was 1. So my whole life I've been trying to prove that I'm enough. Made me become a high achiever. That's great.
Yeah.
But at some point you need to look at the flip side and the other side and ask yourself, are you really fulfilled? Are you really happy? Are you really proud of the life that you're living, of the lifestyle that you're living? And you can have both. You can achieve amazing things because at the end of the day, that part is just science.
Mm-hmm.
Fulfillment is more like, that is definitely not scientific.
Very subjective.
Very subjective, spiritual, you can call it art, but that is something you need to look at some point. But I knew, hey, I need to get out of this hustle culture and work every single moment. And also at the end of the day, we all have the fear in some way to be not enough, not good enough.
Yeah.
And I want to come closer to the truth, which is, you're a mother, your baby is turning 2 soon. Can I ask you, what does she have to do to be enough for you?
She is completely, entirely enough. And the only question I will be asking her when she grows up is, are you happy?
Yeah, a mother will always tell you.
I can never predict what she's going to want to have as her job. She doesn't have to live by my definition of success, but what will truly make me happy and proud of her is if she says, yes, I'm happy, I'm fulfilled.
Every mother will tell you, like, my baby doesn't have to do anything.
100%.
In fact, like, I do a lot and it's enough, right? In most cases, not in all cases. And then, we grow older and things change a little bit. Also, hormones just in our bodies change. And then we're trying to prove our whole lives that we are enough. But at the end of the day, for the people who really care about you, you are enough. You don't need to do anything.
You are so correct about it. And even working with my clients, I see so many people living somebody else's definition of success because they're still trying to prove something to their parents, to, I don't know, their aunts, their uncles, to their friend group. And really that doesn't lead to fulfillment because maybe in your parents' definition, success or what you read into in terms of their definition was working hard, right? And you're working so hard to try and achieve something, but really it's not your definition of success. And so that becomes an infinite loop that will never actually lead to fulfillment. And so to anybody that's listening to us, I really, really encourage you just to sit down and write down your own definition of success so you at least know what is it that brings fulfillment to you. How can you take little steps towards it instead of just trying to live somebody else's dream?
Yes. And also your own rules of what do I need to do so that I feel enough? Because there are many people working 13-hour days and then at the end of the day, still not enough.
It's all about the inner conversation.
Yeah, it's the inner conversation. It's the inner framework. That's the work. Learning how to regulate, learning how to give things empowering meaning. That's the real deal. And everybody needs to do this. Whether you're a business owner, it doesn't matter. It's like one of the most important things I would teach at school if I would have a school.
Be the example for us right now. So point A, Axel working morning till late night, hustling, not feeling enough, versus point B now, you seem to have that perfect life of, you have businesses, you're not managing them, they're probably working a little bit less. Maybe give us like a little comparison of some figures of what your life feels like.
So my life is definitely not perfect. I love my life, don't get me wrong, but my life is not perfect and I still get frustrated and there are moments where I don't feel well. But the difference is I stress myself way less. I wake up whenever I want to wake up. I don't force myself to wake up at 5 a.m. I sleep as long as I want to sleep. If my body needs 9 hours, 9 hours.
Yeah.
Like, that's my definition of success.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to wake up at 5 a.m. just because, you know, you're part of the 5 a.m. club, or because I need to work and work and work and work. No, I know the most important thing is that I feel good.
Yeah.
So I got this book once gifted from my sister, and it's called The Secret.
Oh, yeah.
And I understood from this book, the most important thing is that I feel good. Because when I feel good, I make better decisions.
It's all about the vibrations too. I'll get to that maybe.
When I make better decisions, I get better results.
Yeah.
I live a better life.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can sleep 4 or 5 hours and work all day, but how will you feel? And your energy, your attitude, of course, impacts on what you create. You know, you can always say, like, I would just sleep 3 hours less. Okay, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you create better results or that you're even more productive.
Correct.
It's like, if there is a 5K run, there are always a couple of people who start sprinting, and you can do that, but you will see you get into trouble after, you know, the first 1,000 meters.
Yeah.
And then all the people who took their time are suppressing you. And it's the same thing, I think, in life. Like, it's really important to make sure you feel good. So that's my number one priority.
Yeah. I would even phrase it to set a new benchmark for yourself, so you never work over, 80% of your maximum, because eventually if you keep pushing 100, 120, it just leads to burnout.
It leads to feeling miserable. That's what burnout is.
And it takes much longer to recover from that state than just doing a little bit less, taking care of your energy, and then waking up with fresh new power and state to create something the next day. But let's break it down into percentages. I know you're a numbers guy too.
Yeah.
So I'm really curious. I'm sure there's a lot of people watching you from the outside, and you are, the wildest example of success and mindset and healthcare and the coaching niche. And they're really looking up to you. Percentage-wise, how much of your success do you owe to mindset, to taking action, and to possibly luck/manifesting things into your life?
So mindset, luck, and what's the third thing?
Taking action.
Taking action. Okay. So that's a really good question. Tony Robbins once said, success is 80% psychology, 20% mechanics, skills. I don't know where he came up with the numbers, but sounds pretty reasonable. I think the most important thing is really your psychology, your mindset. As I said earlier, like, if you keep repeating, if you keep believing, it's not going to work for me, it's not going to work for me, it won't. That's just how it is. And also, whenever you're trying to achieve something, the most important thing is the mindset, the psychology. That enables me to achieve things that seem to be impossible. Like, when I was in my early 20s, for example, I wanted to shoot a documentary about climate refugees. I had no big following, no contacts whatsoever, but I was driven and I knew I had the right mindset because of all of the lessons I learned earlier, the books. I took action, massive action, and I for sure had luck. But I would say the biggest chunk, those 70, 80%, are the mindset, your psychology, taking action. And then there's for sure 10, 20% luck. But, luck is something that you get lucky whenever you show courage. You get lucky when you go for it. Like, when you take care of those two parts, if you know what you want, if you know why you want it, and you're willing to play your part, because that's something people forget when it comes to law of attraction. You need to play your part. You need to be in the right energy. You need to learn how to self-regulate, because it's not coincidence in what kind of energy you are. It's like you are in charge of all of this. Your emotional world, that's you. How amazing. For some people, it's like, shit, I feel terrible all the time.
Take responsibility.
No, that's the flip side of self-responsibility. But it's also the beautiful thing about self-responsibility.
You get to create.
You get to, you choose. If you want to be angry all day, okay, amazing. It's your choice. And it's like the same thing I have to tell me. Like, if I want to be frustrated all day, I can be frustrated all day. If I want to switch and feel a different emotion, okay, I can do that as well. But to answer your question, so I would say 70-80% the first two things, and then the rest is luck. For sure. But I really believe luck is something you create. Luck is something you can make. I see the more optimistic people are, the luckier they are.
What do you attribute that to? Is that their mindset? Do you believe in all of this kind of vibrational stuff? How do you personally explain it?
I believe that whatever you really focus on, that's my core belief. Whatever you're going to focus on, you're going to feel. A really simple example is to worry about something. You are focusing on something that probably didn't even happen yet.
Yeah.
But it feels really real. Right?
Right.
Like everybody can think of something they worried about once. It never became reality.
Oh, yeah.
But it felt real. The suffering was real. The pain was real. That shows you how powerful your mindset is. So I am trying to do the opposite. I want to use that mind tool for me, because your brain doesn't know the difference between this is reality, this is happening in front of my eyes, or this is just pure imagination, this is just my brain. So use that for you.
Absolutely.
And I believe whenever I do that, somehow I get lucky. But you need to be in a nice frequency, in a nice energy to get lucky.
100%.
Like, it's somehow always the people who are already happy and satisfied who get lucky. Right? Interesting. The people, for example, when we talk, it's a business podcast, when we talk about people who need clients the most have the least. People who need money the most have the least. Is that fair? I don't know. I just tell you that's how it is. Okay, so that's abundance, right? Feeling abundant. When you're abundant, I don't need more clients, but they come to me and they want me, and I'm like, when?
What do I do?
How do I do that? Like, I need to find different ways. And then there are other people who choose to choose a different attitude. Or I forever remember this one conversation. I went to an event and there was this one guy next to me doing like similar things, and like, it's so hard to get clients. And I'm like, whoa.
Look at me.
No, not look at me. I'm like, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. People don't understand how powerful words are. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Whatever you nurture with your energy eventually ends up growing.
Yeah, and so I believe in luck. I believe I'm super lucky. And more of it is coming.
That's a good self-fulfilling prophecy to
That's
have.
as good, yeah. I believe I'm lucky. I believe I attract amazing people into my life. And I know at the end of the day, if you really commit to something, it always works out somewhere. And the only thing you can do is to really focus on the thing that you want, have a really strong why, and have faith that it works out, even if you don't know how. Because that's the tricky part. But that's just how it works. People always want to know every single step before they start. If you would already know every single step before, you would have already done it.
So many endless possibilities of how things fall into place. I think it's just impossible for our brain to really compute every single way you possibly can get there.
Yes.
Right? Our brain is very limited. It only sees a linear way of getting to your destination. But there are also so many opportunities that could pop out of nowhere. You meet a person that connects you to somebody slides into your DMs, right? And that's that 20% of luck / manifestation, whatever you want to call, that if you have the commitment and if you have an unwavering desire to achieve something, I feel just comes to you
Yeah.
with the right mindset.
Yeah. I once read, your job
Yeah.
is to plant the seed.
Mm.
The universe will take care of
Oh.
planting or growing
I love
the
that.
tree.
I love that so much.
And that's what I really believe in. Like, I do my part, I play my part. Someone, I don't know who's in charge. Nobody knows. That's, again, like, nothing has meaning. We all don't know. Nobody knows who's in charge.
It's intriguing to discuss it, though.
Yeah, definitely. And I want to choose something empowering. Like, we don't know what happens after this life is over. I just find it way more comforting and beautiful to believe there is something better waiting, right? Than to say, oh, well, it's just a black hole and everything is
What
gone.
do you personally believe in? Heaven, reincarnation?
I believe I'm going to keep, well, honestly, I believe I'm going to live a really long, beautiful life. And who knows what's going to be possible then. Because right now we always think we have shit figured out, and if there would have been the opportunity to, create podcasts 200 years ago, people would have said, "Boy, if you turn 50, that's so old," and we know so little. But I personally believe in the universe. I believe someone is in charge, and someone with a sense of humor. That's for sure. But yeah, I believe something better is waiting. I don't know what, but I know it's going to be better.
Yeah.
That's my attitude. Like, okay, if this doesn't work out, still sometimes painful, but something better is waiting. The better it gets, the better it gets. If not this, then something better is waiting. If someone is like if a deal is not working out, well, something better is waiting.
Oh yeah. The universe never says no. It either says yes or later or I have something better for you.
Yeah.
I just love that quote.
Yeah. The better it gets, the better it gets.
Yes. In Hindu philosophy, there is a concept of dharma, which is something they call your soul's purpose for this lifetime, or maybe like a God-given mission. What do you see your dharma for this lifetime is?
Improving people's lives. I think that's what I'm here for. I think that's what I'm really good at. Seeing not only what is, but what could be. I think that's why the people that like to work with me, that's what they like about me. That's one of my biggest gifts, to have the courage to see what could be.
Yeah.
Because most people, they can only see what is right now. Yeah, but at the end of the day, that brings me fulfillment, and I feel really proud when I hear someone made their life better and I played a role. Knowing that makes me very peaceful.
You have, from working with you, I would say that you have a beautiful ability to see past any of the present circumstances, past circumstances. You kind of see right through into the line of the best possible reality unfolding. And I think that's such a unique skill. But I also see coaches as people who, yes, guide other people to have better lives, who have incredible amount of wisdom that was not simply acquired through birth. And it seems that you have a God-given gift of absorbing stress without it breaking you. As you said before, the 26 years until that life-changing event that happened, it almost felt like you were being prepared for all of it. So I want to go back to where I believe most...
Second time goosebumps, by the way.
Yes. I want to go back to where I believe most foundations are set.
Yeah.
And that's our childhood. And I want to understand what made you so resilient. So, Axel, how would you describe your childhood in 3 words?
Wow. Yeah, my childhood in 3 words. Challenging, demanding, adventurous, It was for sure. The good thing about my childhood was it was never boring.
Mm-hmm.
But it was really like I have to say it was traumatizing, and I wish for nobody to have that experience. But just that came up recently not a long time ago. Like I told you, I saw a lot of drug addiction in my family and surrounding. We were never really wealthy. I was really privileged that I was lucky, very lucky that I got the chance to grow up in Europe and especially in Germany.
Yeah.
Like I have not done anything for that privilege. You know, like I didn't have to work for that. I was just born into a really wealthy, beautiful country and ability to go to school. That was really good. Really, really good. But I told you, like one of the hardest events in my life was my mother passing away. And it became especially hard because I was so young. I don't remember it consciously. Subconscious mind, a baby
Of course.
knows, like your body knows. And growing up without a mother is, I think, was really shaping me. It was really painful and made me suffer a lot. Like I just suffered so much because of it. And that enables me also the other circumstances. Like if you live with an alcoholic,
Yeah.
you get so good. I kind of had to smile when you said those beautiful things about me, that I can look through the things, or that I can sense in what mood someone is in a second. So I know where we can go, you know, like I can sense the mood. And that's because I grew up with alcoholics. Because they, like one moment's like this, the other moment's like this. You need to know.
You have to be a strong empath
You need
to survive.
Exactly, to survive. You need to like develop those senses. What is the mood right now?
Yeah.
When can I ask for something? Like when can I ask to go out? When is the right moment? Like you need to become really good in like reading the moment. So that obviously helps me now a lot. And at the end of the day, that's the meaning I gave my childhood. It was full of physical abuse, mental abuse, and just tough. Like I was not a happy kid. I was not a happy teenager. I remember this moment as a teenager where I had those thoughts of like, why me? Like, what did I do in my past life to deserve all of this? Like, it's ridiculous. And I had moments where I was, for sure, you would call that depression.
What age were you when you felt?
Maybe like 13, 14, where I'm just like, this is so horrible. I can't stand this anymore. And there was, if that's all you know, if that feeling is all you know, I started to question myself and the whole concept of life. Like, this is it? Really? That's when you start thinking about things like suicide. When you, like someone who's suicidal, believes that it's nicer, it's less painful to die, to not be alive anymore, than to live. And I can understand that, because you come home and there's misery, and you go to bed and you do this whole cycle, and you're like, when is this? What's the point of this? Looking back, I can see how it happened for me. Like it made me the man that I'm really happy to be because of all of those things. Like my mom passing away, the hardest moment in my life, probably. I would not be so close to my siblings if that wasn't the case. My grandma took care of me and learned so much from her. And my grandma was such a sweet, loving person. I became so close to her because of that, because of my childhood. So at the end of the day, at some point, I had to make this this decision, this all happened for me, like
Who
for a
gave you
really good
that
reason.
example? Because I'm sure there's a lot of people with
Books, a
similar
lot of
situations.
books, a lot of mentors. I just self-development work, honestly, self-help.
What sparked that curiosity though? Because when you're in that space of darkness, when you feel like there's no other way to live, when you don't feel like you have hope, how do you even start moving in that direction?
I think it was social media.
Mm-hmm.
I used to follow this guy. His name is Misha Janets. I don't know if you know him.
No.
Have you heard of him? Okay. But he was one of my earliest mentors. He had a YouTube channel, or he still has. He was talking about fitness. There was like one way that I built strength. Like a place where I felt like, oh, life is actually good, was playing football or being in the gym. And so I started doing research, how to get in shape and blah, 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 blah. So I found this guy and I watched his videos, and he was traveling and he was talking about books. And I'm like, he's reading books? Because up until this point, I only read books because someone forced me at school.
Yes.
Like you had to. And even then, I just bought the summaries of the book.
I bet it kills reading for so many kids.
Yeah. I'm like, you choose to read books? What the heck is wrong with you? But anyways, I looked really up to him, and I still do. And I think he introduced me into this world of reading books. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm growing, I'm learning. And then I started reading books about people who went through a lot of pain, and they turned their worst day of their lives into their best days of their lives. I discovered people like Tony Robbins, who has been a massive help, a massive inspiration in my life, and I will be forever, ever, ever grateful for this guy, because I remember listening to his audio tapes and stuff, and really like feeling hope. Like, hey, there is someone who went through very hurtful, very painful times and found a way through it. I'm like, wow. And so I think this guy, Misha, fun fact, now he's been on my podcast 3 or 4 times.
I love that.
And I think I need to send him another message. I think he knows how grateful I am for him, for his lessons, for his teachings. But that's how I got into this.
I hope you realize that you are that example for some more people now too.
Yeah, sometimes it's a bit crazy.
I know.
I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, or like, but that when someone comes up to me and asks for a picture, I'm like, sure. But I'm like, why? Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't think I'm anything special.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if it's a good thing or a bad thing. But reflecting about it's probably a good thing. Like, I don't think I'm more talented than anybody. It's not talent. Like, really, for me to be successful in this world, it's not talent. Because if it would be about talent, I wouldn't be here. I learned English.
Massive process to get to.
For some reason, I chose a different language. Like, it's not my native language. To just
and you're so good at it, you would never tell.
And I did it, right? And subconsciously, I made the right decisions to get better at it. Yeah. I traveled. I had partners who speak amazing English. But yeah, self-help work. At the end of the day, I got to this because of other people.
Let's go back to your childhood for a little bit longer.
Yeah, of course.
What's your favorite childhood memory?
Waking up Saturday morning, my grandma cooking. Do you know what baby potatoes are? Those tiny potatoes.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm Eastern European. I know everything about potatoes.
With onions. That's one of my favorite memories. Just being spoiled by my grandma. Yeah, my grandma. Like, the times at my grandma's house, they were always amazing, because it felt like a safe space. She was so good at creating this beautiful, safe space at home. My favorite memories.
The biggest lesson your grandma taught you?
Be kind. Be kind. She would always cheer me on when I would do something nice for someone else. If I would hold the door for someone, she would be so happy. And that just became part of my subconscious mind, like help others.
I love that she did it through praising the things you're already doing right.
Yeah.
And raising a child now, I think this is probably one of the most important things, not just pointing out where they're missing, what they're doing wrong, but actually encourage them to be doing more of something that is a good rate, a good skill.
Yeah. Be kind and do something meaningful. Like choose something, whatever you choose, give something. She was all about giving. And she was one of the happiest people I knew. And she was all about giving. And of course, you need to take care of yourself as well. But to quote Tony Robbins here, the secret to living is giving. And she understood that without studying his work.
That's a big one.
Maybe Tony Robbins got it from my grandma. Because she was embodying it.
Very possible.
Very possible. 100%. Somewhere in Uzbekistan.
Axel, I know you want to have a family at one point as well. And I'm curious, what are the lessons that you've accumulated over this lifetime that you would definitely want to pass on to your children?
What a good question, Mamma Mia. If I would have kids, I would want them to... What lessons would I teach them? It's a really good question. I would go back to the most important thing is that you feel good, that you have fun, that you make it count. Whatever your version of a beautiful life is, live that, even if it disagrees with what I'm preaching. I would want them to... I would pass on that time is limited. Don't take it for granted. Don't take people for granted, because you don't know how much time you have. And it's something good. It makes things valuable. It makes Bitcoin valuable, because there's not unlimited Bitcoin, or diamonds.
Scarcity.
There's scarcity. It's not unlimited. And the same thing is with time. It's not unlimited. So it's something you should never take for granted. That's for sure. So if I would have to leave them a gift, that's something I don't think I've spoken about on social media before. But my mom made me a gift for my 18th birthday. All of my siblings and me. So she thought about this for 17 years.
That's cool.
And she made me a birthday gift. And I would want to do something similar for my kids. And I think I would give them like a little, not sure what the English word is, like a little like time clock. Is that a thing? Do you know what I mean?
I know.
Sand clock?
Sand clock.
Is that how you call it? I would give them a sand clock for them to remember in a beautiful way, hey, time is limited. Time is precious.
How precious.
Let's run through life with gratitude. Let's run through life doing amazing things that make us proud. And let's not lose perspective. And the last thing is, eat your veggies.
Eat your hummus.
Eat your veggies, eat your hummus. Seriously, take care of your body. Like, take care of your health. If you ask most people what makes you rich, they say money, cars, watches, yada, yada, yada. I can guarantee you can have all of this. If someone takes your health away, you would say, without hesitation, take all of the cars, take the money, take the businesses, give me my health back.
Yeah.
Gives you a hint. Like, it's all made up in our heads, what has value, when we feel rich, when we don't feel rich. And my message would be, you need so very little to feel rich, to feel good, to feel grateful. And if you make it about, once this happens, once XYZ happens, then I'll be happy. Then I'll be fulfilled. Then I'll feel successful. It's not going to happen. It's something you learn how to do it. And external things can help for sure. But I would want to let them know how much power they have. That they are in charge. Nobody else. That nobody can take away their power to choose how they frame things. Nobody.
Incredible lessons. Well, your kids will be very lucky to have you as a father one day if you choose to.
Thank you. I'm not sure. Honestly, that's something that recently, I'm not sure if I will have kids or if I want kids. Right now, I don't. But yeah,
Well, life will
we will see.
find a way.
We'll see.
From the outside right now, it looks like you are so tremendously successful.
Really?
You've gone such a long way from rewiring some of those beliefs that were instilled into you as you were a child. What are some of the transformations you personally are still working on?
Ooh, how much time do you have? I hope this is something that I'm transparent about. That I am aware from the outside. It might look like everything is perfect. I live wherever I want to live. I make a good amount of money. I don't have to worry about anything. I write a book and take Bali. Whenever people think, whenever I tell people, like, most of the time I spend in Bali, they're like, "Oh, you're so lucky," and and I'm like, I understand it. At the same time, I'm still learning how to fully feel enough, and not trying to prove things. Especially like in my work, that's not the case that much. I'm really like in my masculine when I work most of the time. And then that's like where most of my attention and focus in inner growth goes is relationships. Like getting better at that, learning how to hold space, learning how to deal with triggers, learning how to communicate. So in terms of relationships, there's so much I need to learn. And this feeling of being enough. I think those are the two parts in my life where I still, oh my gosh, I haven't even started. I think like I'm a junior or something. Like if it really inside of my body, it feels like I'm 18. I'm just getting started. Like there's no way of, not even the tiniest thought of like, I want to slow down or something. Like I want to do bigger things. I want to help more people. That really excites me. At the same time, I want to do it being in my zen.
That's
I don't want to
value.
sit there 13, 14 hours every day and work. No, I need to get smarter then. I need to learn how to delegate people better, delegate tasks better, give away responsibilities. That's a really interesting journey. And I think that's my next level. Not working more, working less. And just being much better at delegating, much better at taking risks. But at the end of the day, so much is about finding the right people and bringing them together and being a team player. Beautiful. And I have to be so honest, I'm not what I think a good team player yet. I'm on the way. But being in a team with me means usually you win. But let's say not everybody has fun. When I
kind of win no matter what mindset, or how would you describe it?
Yeah. Really good example. When we were at school, like my school time, I was really good at any physical activity, especially like football, volleyball, those kind of things. I was just so good. But I was never the first person someone would pick.
Were you so tough, or what?
I was tough. I was demanding. I would get frustrated if someone wouldn't give 100%. And there's value. We always won, or most of the time. But I also want to have fun, and I think there's a different way. And I'm learning that.
You have multiple businesses at this stage in life. What does your team currently look like to help you build them? And what are the core foundations you build every business on?
What I'm not so passionate about is organizing things. So I'm trying to give that away. Some people would, I would even say, in some way I am a little chaotic. And I think it's a gift. Because it enables me to think outside the box.
Yeah.
But I also know I need to hire my weaknesses. And that's what I'm trying to do. So they are basically giving me the foundation of doing the things that I want to do. And I don't think it would be necessarily the best thing for me to, learn how to. I can do those things, but
they don't come as easily.
Yeah, exactly. They like the simplest tasks take forever for me, right? And then at the same time,
I'm the same.
throw me into a retreat tomorrow.
Yeah.
I'll host a retreat for the 4 days without preparing anything.
Yeah.
Put me into a podcast interview. I don't need to prepare anything. I'm there.
Yeah.
Record a video. Like no problem. There's always something, right? Or think bigger. Or I could write a book, honestly, every couple of months.
Wow, that's a big
I
statement.
really mean it.
That's really
I mean it.
impressive.
I really mean it. I could do that. And I want to be in that position.
Yeah.
And that's what they do right now. Really like supporting me with that.
So being conscious of your strengths, your weaknesses, and hiring to cover your weaknesses, essentially.
Yeah. Hire your weaknesses. Best hiring advice I've ever heard. Hire your weaknesses. Hire slow, fire fast. But
how do you choose your team members?
How do I choose them? Well, they need to be really good at what they're doing. They need to be better than I am, best case. So at the end of the day, when you hire someone, you would like to get an A player, like someone who's really passionate about it. I would say it's really important that you would like to spend time with the person. Like have a vibe, go drink a coffee with that person, have dinner or lunch. And if it's not a vibe, then I would just like not do it, even if they would be qualified enough. That is something that I learned.
Why do you think it matters so much? Why is that a core value?
I mean, you spend time together, and if they don't like you, if they don't believe in you, if it's not energetically a match, it's just gonna be hard to be in a team together or to make it work. It feels forced, and I don't want to have a team meeting where I'm like, I don't want to see that person.
Oh no.
And
Yeah,
vice
that would
versa
be
for them.
painful. Yeah.
So I'm trying. Usually, the best people I hire are people who are genuinely passionate about the mission. Like when I can sense that, that is usually I know
then
that.
Then you're aligned and thinking in the same direction.
Yeah. So,
amazing advice.
No.
You've coached so many people already. You've worked with many, many leaders, champions in their own niche. What pattern have you spotted? What's the biggest lie people tell themselves?
What's the biggest lie?
Yeah.
What a good question. I'd say the biggest lie is I don't have time.
That strikes
I don't
hard.
I don't have the resources. Is basically what I hear often. I don't have time. Is one of them. Like it's a resource. We all have the same amount of that resource. But I would say that's the biggest one. Everybody has a story. Why I'm not there yet, why it's not working out for me, why I basically go back to my emotional home, to the same story. Like we have this one story, and I'm really curious to hear the stories of people, why it's not working, why they're not there yet, because it's so often the same story. And it's never about the resources. It's about how resourceful you are. Because time, it's 24 hours, everybody, right? How resourceful are you with those 24 hours? And whenever I have a massive respect for mothers, I think I shared this with you 24 times. Like, of course it's harder, right?
Yes.
In some way, like you have to, if you have a business and you have a baby, you have two businesses basically, or two babies, right? So of course you need to be better. You need to be more resourceful. But then you could also find empowering, meaning, okay, I have a baby, so I'm getting wickedly smart about how I use my time.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't waste my time. And that is a gift. I think, I don't have kids, but I think that, this is empowering, meaning where I like to people get to. Like, okay, we all have the same resources. your situation is, of course, unique, which is never the case, but sometimes you need to tell people that. Your case is unique.
All the same.
But we need to be resourceful here,
Yeah.
right? And we need to stop telling ourselves those old stories that we keep repeating. And if you keep repeating the same old story, it's going to be your reality. Because a person who says, I don't have the time, it's going to feel like for you, like you don't have the time. But
Not only is it going to feel, but in my opinion, from my personal experience, the whole reality will adjust to reflect that back to you. I've had the same issue of saying, I'm so busy, I don't have time. I just kept repeating it to myself. And guess what? Last minute tasks popping in. My kid is falling ill, of course, shortage of time. And then I just made a mental decision of, is this belief serving me? No, let's get rid of it. So I've reframed it to, I always have a lot of time on my hands. There's a lot of resources available. And for some reason, things are just falling into place much, much easier. For some reason, now I truly do have time on my hands.
yeah, self-fulfilling prophecy.
Again.
Words are a self-fulfilling prophecy.
100%.
And there are people who are saying, I'm busy, I'm busy, I'm busy, I'm busy, I'm busy. And then I tell people, give me your calendar. Because based on what you are saying, there must be not a single, give me your calendar and give me your phone. Because based on what you are saying, you're not spending a single second on Netflix. Based on what you are saying, you're not spending a single second on scrolling. And then you
Big
see
reality
already the
check
reaction.
happens.
And I'm like, okay, give me your phone. And we go through the phone and I look at the calendar. I'm like, meh. You can tell yourself that you're busy,
Yeah.
but it's all subjective. You know, we all have subjective. A lot, little. I would find something that is empowering. And how empowering is it to run around through life and saying, I'm busy, I'm busy, I'm busy, I'm busy, I'm busy. How does that make you feel? How does it make the people feel that you love? They're like, who wants to spend time with someone who says, I'm busy all the time?
Never have time for you.
I'm stressed. What you're basically saying is, I don't have my priorities in order. Or maybe I'm numbing myself with the story.
Can you explain that a little further?
Yeah. So that's a long one. We all have something called a mature self and an immature self. Mature self is you in your essence. I like to call it the real you.
Yeah.
You after a gym session, you after dancing, playful, energetic, looking forward to life. That's mature you. That's essence. And then there's also part of all of us, the immature self. That's you when you get triggered. That's when you get frustrated, when your expectations are not met, when you get hurt, right? Then your immature self comes up. And when that immature self comes up, we usually return to our emotional home, a place where we feel safe and confident. It's coping mechanism. So some people just go back to that, I don't have enough time. They come up with a story to feel safe. We human beings, is really interesting. We rather feel familiar emotions, even if they're destructive, they're new emotions.
To add on to that, the comfort zone is whatever you've been feeling in your childhood, right?
Yeah, and that comfort zone can be destructive. That comfort zone can be horrible.
Yeah.
The comfort zone can be anger.
Yeah. So if you've been brought up in stress, then you basically end up seeking out stressful situations to feel it again.
Yeah, because it's comfortable. It's all you know. It's your home. And for everybody knows someone who's always complaining.
Yeah.
Everybody knows someone who's always angry. Everybody knows someone who in conflicts always gives you the cold treatment. That's not because they're bad people. That's just because that's their home.
Yeah.
Their emotional home.
Yeah.
That's all they know. All they knew. And at some point, you decide, sometimes it's time for an upgrade. It's time to move your home. Right? And for me, for a long time, for example, just to give you an example to understand this better, because whenever I mention that, people are like, oh, wait, explain this. Tell me more about this. It is, at the end of the day, it's really interesting to look at how did you cope with stress, with unfair situations that you valued as a kid. How did you deal with those stressful situations when you were a child? Did you fight? Did you freeze? Did you try to run away from it? Did you emotionally distance yourself from situations? Because odds are really high. As a child, it worked. You got less pain because our brain is wired to avoid pain and to seek pleasure.
Yeah.
So we're trying to avoid pain at all costs. A child does the same thing. So in my experience, having abusive caregivers, I know, okay, if I go attack, more pain, so we don't do it. If I go try to run away, more pain, I don't do it. So I freeze. I emotionally completely disassociate from the situation.
Yeah.
And as a child, brilliant, worked to have less pain.
Yeah.
And then you become an adult, you start dating, and then a trigger comes up. Let's say someone starts crying in front of you and you're in a relationship and you
freeze.
give that you freeze and you give that person cold silent treatment.
Yeah.
You'll see it worked as a kid, doesn't work anymore. And that's for many of us. That's this emotional home. So I changed that.
So what's your personal toolbox for rewiring this kind of a connection?
There are a gazillion things. There is obviously coaching. There is obviously therapy. There's working on yourself, but it will need some level of awareness and usually guidance, because you only know your story. It's really hard to change your story just completely by yourself. So it needs awareness, and you need to change those pain-pleasure connections. Because based on my example, all of a sudden it became really painful to freeze. It didn't give me less pain. It gave me more pain. So at some point I changed. That's when we change. When you connect more pain with the old behavior and more pleasure with the new behavior. When basically the balance shifts.
So in that case, can it only be done with the help of an outside feedback loop, such another person mirroring it back to you? Or can you somehow shift it just with inner work?
You can also, there are 1 million ways that lead to Rome. Whenever you hear someone saying, this is the only way, the person's full of bullshit. I have a really good example that illustrates this. So I had a colleague. I'm not going to mention her name, but it's a real story from my personal life. I used to work in the finance industry, insurance industry, and I had this one colleague. She smoked her entire life. Yeah. She tried everything to stop smoking, everything, except the things that actually work. But anyways, so smoked her entire life. I start to get to know her. She's really kind. She's helping me. She's taking care of me, explaining how things work. And, we start talking. And I'm like, so you are telling me you smoked for a very long time. You can also hear it.
If you would hear my grandma's voice.
yeah. How did you stop? Because I have people that I love dearly who are smoking and they seem not to get it, like you can... those pictures that they put on cigarette boxes, anyways. I'm curious, how did she do it? And she told me the story. She's like, well, I smoked a package a day. In my head, I was calculating how much that would be. You said I'm a numbers person. In my head, I was already compounding it. The money, if she would have put that into a low-cost index fund for the next 30, 40 years, I'm like, wait a minute. You would be one of the richest people I know if you would have put that money into a low-cost index fund and you would have just let it compound. But anyways, I'm listening.
Maybe finance was your path after all.
I love finance. I love numbers because they don't lie, Yeah. Okay, so she did that for a very long time, spent a lot of money on it, but not enough. And then one day she started to feel unwell. So she went to the doctor. The doctor told her, tell me about your symptoms. And she's like, well, I feel fatigued. my leg starts hurting, my back hurts a little, and he's like, interesting, tell me about your lifestyle. Do you smoke? He's like, of course she smokes. Do you smoke? Yeah, I smoke. And he's like, okay, well, what you're developing is a smoker's leg. We have two options here for you. Option number one, you need surgery and we take away your leg and you can live. And she's like, tell me option number two. Quick. Option number two, you start smoking. You start exercising. You eat healthier. And you have a chance to keep your leg. Guess what happened?
How sad that we always need such a drastic push to change something.
In a couple of days, she was not smoking anymore. She went vegetarian.
Wow.
She started bicycling to work, take her bicycle to work, and went for a walk every single day. That shows you how powerful your brain is and what happens when pain-pleasure connections start to change. You asked
Beautiful
a really good
example.
question. Why wait? Why wait? And I don't know if you always need to hit a certain threshold. It's something you can also create in your head through sessions, through experiences. I think it leaves an impact if you take a smoker and you bring them to a hospital where there are people who are going through chemotherapy. It leaves an impact, for sure. There are ways to do this, but at the end of the day, it's something that the person needs to change. The pain-pleasure connections, they need to change. Otherwise, they won't do anything. Otherwise, it won't change. So that is something that I subconsciously try to do with people.
Finding their own trigger.
And changing. I like to work with pleasure. I tried for people to connect, for example, leaving their comfort zone equals pleasure.
It's a muscle you build.
It's a muscle you build.
Yeah.
So like, oh, okay, I'm leaving. Okay, nice progress, pleasure.
I've been feeling it with the cold showers.
Yeah, that's a
definitely
really good example.
Yeah. It's very physical, but the effect is right there. You know, like the uncomfortable feeling will be there for a little bit, but the effect is so long lasting that I think it's one of the best ways to just illustrate that connection a little bit and build the muscle from there.
Yeah.
So I feel like we all wear masks, many different ones, with our clients, with our friends, on social media. I'm curious to know, who is Axel when nobody's watching?
What a good question. I'm not peeing, I promise. Getting some water. Who's Axel when nobody's watching? That's a very good question. Axel is singing when nobody's watching. So if I feel really comfortable with someone, I'm singing all the time. Who's Axel when nobody's watching? I think very similar to the person you see online. Playful, ambitious, driven, wants to leave an impact. But I think I'm much funnier than I am coming across on social media. Much more playful. I'm really playful. Like I don't
You
like
have
to.
such a serious energy on the forefront. We need to see more of that.
I have both. I can do both. I can have serious energy,
I trust that.
and I can be really playful. And sometimes there are moments where you just need to be in that, serious energy where you need to hold, the space. But there is also a lot of playfulness, and both. But that's also me, and I accept that. Sometimes people tell me when they see that side, they're like, "Oh, I would love to see more of this," and that. I'm like, yeah, but at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what you would like to see. It
comes out when it comes out.
Exactly. If I don't know if it's me being a Gemini. I can just, sometimes it feels authentic, for example, to be quiet.
Yeah.
And just to listen. And then sometimes people get a bit confused by that because they also know me really high energy, really loud. But I have both. That's the real me. Like, that's just how I am. And I love being like that. I love to be a bit like, depending on the situation, I can do both. Yeah.
It seems that you have a beautiful balance, not only of the seriousness and playfulness, but also a great balance of masculine and feminine energies. So the way I feel it from you is I feel like you're obviously really in your masculine, and you do feel like a really safe space for a lot of people. You feel like a rock that, can manage anything, essentially. But in a beautiful way, you also have such an open heart and leave room for emotions to come up for you as well. So I'm curious, in today's world, how important would you say that balance of energies is for a man and a woman? And have you always had that beautiful balance?
First of all, thank you. I'm going to answer this question in a second. I just want to ask you. So we have this thing that more than 80% of our clients are female.
Oh.
Why do you think that is?
From my personal perspective, the niche that you are in is, I think, quite naturally dominated by females, because I think being a coach or just generally working with people requires a certain level of empathy and emotional intelligence. And that's not to say that men lack it, but I think it comes a little bit more naturally.
I think they do. No.
So I think that, but again, that safe space that you create around you is very, very magnetic.
Interesting. Good to know, because we wonder all the time. Is it the Taylor Swift references that I mention once in a while? Yeah. To answer your question, for a long time it was the other way around. I would be like, I think most of the time it would be 70-80% feminine energy, and then I used to be. Gosh, me as a teenager, a teacher would say something, I would start crying, for example.
Interesting.
Yeah, I would be very sensitive, very very sensitive, and I would still say, like, if you would interview the my ex-partners, they would tell you, like, he is definitely someone who can be sensitive, and I think that's also something that many women actually like. That's why I have a lot of female friends, because I'm like, I can hold space for that. It shifted in the more healing work I do, the more it shifts. I have a funny situation. So I went to this training, 2-year training to work on coaching skills and therapy skills, and 10 days in beautiful Italy. And there was this one exercise, picture 60-70 people in one room, all like therapists, coaches, mostly therapists. And there was this one exercise we needed to do, which was basically holding someone else. And I was like, what? Right? But they said early on, the same gender. And I was like, what? I'm gonna sit there with a guy? What is this? It was like, I could feel how this is outside of my comfort zone, but I already know there's growth. Okay? So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do that. And then there was not enough men or women. Anyways, I had to do it with, there were not enough men. So I had to do it with a woman. And I could see how my whole nervous system was like, relaxing, right? And we did the exercise, and then I was wondering, why is it so hard for me to do this with a man? Because both were kind of strangers, right? Interesting. And I'm mentioning this because there is healing for me to do there. And the more I do of that, the more I also have a nicer balance between being masculine and being feminine, because we all have both inside of us.
100%.
And I want to have a nice balance of it. And I think I'm just getting better at it. I don't think it's a perfect balance. I don't know if there is a perfect balance. The balance that I would like to have is for sure a little bit more masculinity.
So, what do you feel was that scary factor of masculinity to you?
Well, there were not many like relationships in my childhood to men that were safe.
Mm-hmm.
So it just felt more. I feel more safe with women than with men. That's the truth right now.
Makes sense.
But just based on my childhood, based on my childhood experiences. But yeah, trying to see the patterns and trying to work through that. But to come back to your question, so we all need to honor both parts inside of us, and it's up to us to decide what kind of balance we want to have. I would like to always have a bit more masculine energy in with me within me than feminine. So a nice balance would be in my world right now 70-30. 70% of the time masculine, 30% feminine. Yeah, and I would say most days that's the case.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
In today's world, do you see a general pattern of what energy is being slightly more appreciated? I have my opinions on it, but I'm curious to see if, from an outside perspective, you kind of feel the same.
What is more appreciated in what context?
Whether it's a man or a woman.
Yeah.
To me, subjectively, it feels like masculine energy at the moment is being praised a little more. So kind of that general context of having to work really hard, having to hustle, kind of that go-getter energy. Feels like the feminine side is being slightly neglected right now.
Yeah. Good question. In my personal little bubble, I would say it's probably the opposite. Like less of that and more of being not trying to fix everything. If I learned one thing, from all the beautiful women I've met in my life, then that sometimes they don't want you to fix it.
Just listen, but
just listen. I was like, how I could fix this problem in a second. Oh, it's not about that. Okay, so you just want me to listen? Where was this subject in school that I missed to learn all of this? Because it's important.
100%.
And even knowing this, I'm like, okay, well, I kind of have the solution. I could fix it in a heartbeat, but it's not my part. And this was so freeing. It's not my part. It's not my responsibility to fix you, to fix it, to fix the situation. I'm basically invading your space and taking your freedom away. So let me just be there and hold the space.
Yeah.
That is a really interesting dynamic. That is something completely new for me because I used to be the fixer.
Yeah.
Give me a problem, I fix it. But that was my own insecurity of not, that's not holding the space or being accepting what is. How's it for you? I like where this is going. What do you want in a situation like that? When there is a problem, you feel like you have a problem. You're worried. You're anxious. What do you want from your partner?
So speaking from my subjective preference, I think it would be number one to be listened to, just like most women. And for my partner to hold space for my emotions. And that first urgent band-aid that usually needs to be put on the situation is, it's going to be okay. I'm here to support you, whatever it's going to be. I'll be here. And then, as a second step, whether or not they want you to fix it, in my opinion, depends on their love language. Because to many people, acts of service are their main love language. So with me valuing it quite highly, if it's like a situation in business or maybe something portraying our family or home, I would love for that to be offered, actually. Like I do value those things too. But the number one crucial step is just listening.
Yeah. And if I understand correctly, to acknowledge the pain.
Oh, for
I
sure.
think the worst thing you can do is to say like, why do you even cry about this? It's not such a big deal.
Yeah, for us as coaches, that comes as a natural response, just like suck it up and move on. But it's definitely true.
Yeah. No, interesting, because you know what? I really agree on in the business world, there should, in my opinion, be more feminine energy as well. Represent like women who represent also business, because honestly, I said it earlier, what I find it incredible how you, for example, handle a business and being a mom. That is outstanding, and men can learn
Thank
a
you.
lot from that, from women in general. And when you look on social media, it's mostly men talking about business. There are many examples, but I think there should be more.
Yeah.
There's so many conversations about what is a high value man and blah 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 blah. I think there should be more women talking about that. Also,
I hear a lot of conversations of what it's like to be a high value woman. I think, or
Really?
at least so many, again, just from my personal bubble.
And now I'm curious, what is it for you?
Oh man, coming from an Eastern European country, most women are very driven to become the best version of themselves, I would say. And I personally don't see as many trainings for men, or men really questioning, how do I become the best man I could, right? So there, it almost feels like woman, a cat doesn't ask, how do I become more of a cat? Like, it's all within you, essentially. But I feel like in this Western culture, by us having to balance so many factors, like looking after a house, looking after a family, running a business ideally, self-development, looking good, all those things together drive a lot of women into complete overdrive of things to juggle, right? It's so many priorities you have to somehow sort through. And in my personal experience working with females in business, a lot of them, for the majority of their day, have to be in a masculine energy. Because, of course, owning a business is oftentimes problem solving, thinking strategies. But because it doesn't come as a very natural gear, just like on a car, you have to drive in the right mode, it often leads to burnout. And I would love for there to be more examples of women who are successful entrepreneurs, but also take care of themselves, just feel high energy, feel relaxed, don't feel like they have to be in that go-getter mode all the time. So that's something that I would love to bring to the table for more women to see, that you can still grow a business on a female energy as well as a masculine one.
Yeah, I have this one mentor. She's female. She works a couple hours per day. She makes millions, and I'm always like, wow, amazing, like so good. And so like this is something that's why I also decided to work with her. So great that you are able to do that, and be in that beautiful energy that you are in. Find it a really interesting conversation, just because relationships is probably the most important part, one of the most important parts in life, for sure, after health and stuff. But it's, your business can go incredibly well, you can be fit, and at the same time, if your relationship or your relationships are not at a good place, that's all you think about, right? Like, it's of them. We need it. We need other humans. We all have a deep urge for connection and being loved. And if you think hundreds of years back, without a community, you're screwed, right? Internally, we have this longing. So I'm always curious to just hear different perspectives.
What's your take on feminism? I know it's very popular right now.
Feminism?
Feminism,
Yeah, can you explain to me before I say something?
So my personal definition, or you think the general?
But what do you mean with that? Because I don't want to get myself into trouble.
Well, I think the definitions of feminism are quite widespread.
50-50?
50-50 kind of
I
relationship.
I think at the end of the day, everybody should do whatever they want to do without hurting anybody. That's like my personal approach. So I don't really have. I mean, what's my opinion? I mean, whatever works for you. That's as profound as it gets. I don't think there's right, there's wrong. You do whatever you want to do, and if it works for you, brilliant. I think as long as it comes from the truth and not some coping mechanism or your way of feeling significant. As long as it comes from a good place, it's all good. Like I'm not really thinking much about it because I think it's making problems where there are no problems. I think that's why I'm asking where they're like, is it? There's a lot of things that are just not fair between men and women, like that. You know, the difference in salary and stuff. That's just not fair.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous, and you need to work on that. But there's no value in attacking each other. Just like we need to see the problem and then we need to fix it. That's just how it is. Starting to like argue with each other and like this is how it should be. No, this is how it should be. There's no value. No.
For you personally, would a 50-50 relationship work?
Would a 50-50
you
relationship
tried to
work?
get out of it, I saw.
If she's really like, she really wants that, yeah, sure, why not? If that's what she wants, amazing. As long as we're happy, it's all good. Would I like to provide and you don't have to take care of those things? 1,000,000%. 1,000,000%. But if you want to, you can do whatever the heck you want to do, you know?
As long as
it feels real to you, if you're happy, that's all good. You can pay for everything. I don't pay for anything.
How quickly it changed.
No problem. Really, like I don't feel my ego is not in play. No, go for it.
So you would not
I also
be
have no problem.
by a woman that earns more than you, for example.
Can you say that again?
Would you be threatened by a woman that would be earning more than you do?
No. Why? No, I've dated women who earned more than me.
Ooh.
And
flex.
Yeah, no problem.
Amazing.
Why? Like, what's the point? It's not like how much money you make determines your strength or something. No, it's just like apparently you bring more value to the marketplace in some way. But who cares? You know?
I love that stand.
What is it about? At the end of the day, I think in an ideal world, it's team. It's like we are a team together and we create a beautiful life together.
Yeah.
And that should be, in my world, that's the ideal case. If she makes more than I make, well, amazing, great. Even more people that we can help, even more abundance in our life. I'm all for it. And what I think is, so I have a lot of female friends who are incredibly successful, who make more than their partners. So I see this all the time when I ask those questions. What I think is important that in a relationship, the person is never depending on the other person. So I like the idea of them having, like my partner having her own thing. I would really like that, so I know she's not with me because of this, or like she's not getting out of this because of that.
It's
like
just a certain freedom factor.
A certain freedom factor. So I would be there to like, have your own spa or whatever you want to do. Or like, I usually attract women who are really driven as well, who want to do amazing things. Become an actress, have their own business or whatever. That's just the kind of women I attract. And so the question... The question doesn't really come up 50-50 or not. It's like usually they are... It's always the first date, who's paying? I just do it because I love to pay for people. But that's not just the case with, women, also men. If I just love to pick up the bill. But I also learned to give the other person the opportunity to do the same thing. And I don't think there's always like black or white, the right thing to do, the wrong thing to do. What do you think? Is it a problem?
I entirely agree with your stand, and I think it's a beautiful opinion that, whatever works for that couple, as long as they're not having arguments about it and they're in the same boat, they are in it as a team, that's the perfect example, right? Whoever is providing, it doesn't matter if you see the future going in the same direction. I do, again, think that maybe at this point in time, the pendulum has swung a little too far. And I don't mean it in the example of women's rights. For example, as you mentioned, there are still things that are unequal, like men getting promoted much more often, men's salaries just being generally on average much, much higher. But at the same time, I think the new standard of work for women has been put in place, but all the rest of the standards also stayed in place. So everything we talked about in terms of taking care of the family, taking care of the house, it doesn't seem that that side shifted as much. So from my personal perspective, I do still feel like the man is kind of the person who provides general safety to the family, right? So for them, having gone through pregnancy, for example, you do feel the need and longing of being protected and just feeling that, somebody has your back because you are in a vulnerable position.
Yes.
And I think it's beautiful when women are driven and have their own ambitions. I just don't want it to come with some harmful byproducts of them feeling overwhelmed by the number of things they want to do or have to do.
Yeah, that's for sure. I had to start, had a big smile on my face because I have this one friend. She always brings up the same story. She's like, okay, 50-50. If there would be, so if we would have a house together and there's someone trying to break into the house.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's 50-50. 50-50 work, who's going to take care of it? Or, someone trying to invade the house.
Yeah.
Who's going to take care? Okay, when we, in that moment, do you do 50-50 as well? So, yeah, I see your point. I really see your point. I think it's a sensitive topic. But at the end of the day, I think many ways lead to Rome. But I completely agree with you at the same time.
Yes. Well, Axel, this has been a beautiful, diverse podcast. Thank you for being so open here. And as a last closing question, I want to ask you, perhaps there's been a question you wanted to be asked, but haven't been asked.
That's a good question. I think you asked a lot of really good questions. I think a question that I would like to be asked is, who's your favorite artist? Just kidding. I'm not sure, honestly. You've asked so many great questions. Maybe I want to think about it. Give me a second.
Take your time.
Let me think about it. What would be a question I think people should ask me more often? I think you asked it. I think a really good question would be, how did you turn your life around? You asked it in not exactly the question, but in similar ways. Because if I just look back, and I did that in many ways, it's what I'm most proud of is the cards that I've been given were not the greatest. Lost my mom, grew up with alcoholics, went through mental, physical abuse. The cards were not good.
Yeah.
But I really can say I created a beautiful house of cards. And it would be interesting to see how that happened, how I did that. So that's a really good question.
It's all about how far you come from the point A, in my opinion. And so far, you've had a beautiful, adventurous, challenging journey.
Yeah.
So thank you for sharing a little bit of that with us today.
Yeah, thank you for holding the space, for asking really good questions. I'm always curious what the listener is doing about it. right? Because we've been sitting here for, I don't know, like 90 minutes. You're away from your daughter. It's precious time that you invested, that I invested, that the person who listens, watches, invested. What are you changing? What are you doing differently? Because it's one thing to hear information. It's a whole different ball game to actually do something. And we talked about the importance of taking action. So what is something that you know you need to change? And you've told yourself this bullshit story of like, I've tried everything. I don't have the time, blah, blah, blah. What is it that you know you need to change? And then make one decision that basically gives you no other chance than succeeding in it.
What an amazing action point. And from my side, I would add that I think one of the most important factors to successfully changing something is a supportive community. So Axel, I have a question. Perhaps today we could give a little gift to this community.
Yeah.
In some kind of a sense that would help them create a change in their life.
Yeah, 1,000,000%. So one gift that I always offer people, and also your podcast listeners, we can put a link into the description where people can try guided visualization practices, meditation practices, the ones that I use. It's free for 30 days if you want to keep it. It costs as much as 1 or 2 Starbucks cappuccinos per month. But it's really those tools enabled me to create a beautiful life for myself, for my clients. And I challenge you to 30 days in the morning, sit down, use one of the guided meditation practices, and you'll see your life change.
Amazing. What a beautiful gift, Axel.
Thank you, Elise, for your time.
Thank you so much.
And until very soon. Ciao.